Good morning, everyone. You are on air with StreetEasy. My name is Stephanie Schoenholtz. I'm the Director of Industry Relations. Thank you all for joining us for this session of Decoding the Market. Like so many of you, I have been working primarily from home for the last year and a half alongside my kids and my husband, sometimes my parents' dog. And I'm excited to kick off this latest installment of Decoding the Market. It's our quarterly event that is designed specifically for you agents that we work with in New York City. Now, a quick overview of what you can expect today. StreetEasy economist Nancy Wu will present her recent released market data to give you a better understanding of what's happening in the sales and rentals market here in the city. After Nancy's data deep dive, drum roll please, I'm excited to welcome for the first time in decoding history, StreetEasy's Vice President and General Manager, Caroline Burton. She will join us later in the program for a fireside chat about StreetEasy's 2022 focus and vision for the evolving New York City marketplace. Really, really exciting content there. We'll also dig into our latest consumer insights and changing customer preferences as a result of the pandemic, and talk a little bit about StreetEasy's fair housing work. Then Caroline and Nancy will both come on screen for a brief Q&A to answer the questions that you've all been submitting for the past couple of weeks. We'll make sure we get to as many of those as we can at the end of the hour. Before I hand it over to Nancy, one of the huge benefits of tuning in today is that you are getting a sneak peek at upcoming product enhancements from StreetEasy. So we've never done this at Decoding the Market before. It's the first time ever, so you're really getting in at a good time. We're going to highlight some not yet launched features and products that we are working on. First up is a new search experience. This is for home shoppers and agents who will be able to soon enhance their searches by filtering for their client must-haves and the nice-to-haves. We're calling this StreetEasy Flexible Search. The reality is, as you all know, and live, eat, and breathe it every day, living in New York City comes with compromises. The StreetEasy Flexible Search drives at the heart of the complicated home search process. We're giving shoppers more flexibility, and we're opening up new options for them in their search that they might not have seen before. So very exciting for us to be able to showcase that for all of you. The next enhancement that we're going to be rolling out in the next couple of months is open house registration. We'll be making enhancements to improve upon the open house experience for both buyers and agents. Customers will soon be able to more easily keep up with their open house schedules. And the upgrade's also going to allow StreetEasy the opportunity to remind consumers of when they have open houses scheduled, so we cut down on those no-shows, which is key for agents. And we'll also update them when there are changes to those open house times, which does happen more often than people would think. And finally, we've got a new homepage coming to StreetEasy. I'm really, really excited about this. It's been a while since we rolled out a full homepage redo. There's a constant effort at StreetEasy to listen to our customers and ensure that a more personalized and tailored experience is delivered at key moments in their home shopping journey. So StreetEasy's new homepage is going to hit right at the heart of that need to personalize an experience for consumers. Last but not least, if you've been to Decoding the Market before, you know at the end of the hour, there's going to be a survey that pops up on the screen. Fill out that survey. It's key for us to get that insight from all of you to create great programming on your behalf. You will be gifted a gift from StreetEasy that you get to choose, or you can make a donation if you fill out that survey. So stick around, make sure you do that at the end of the hour. Okay, let's get down to the data. I'd like to welcome StreetEasy economist Nancy Wu to the screen. You may recognize Nancy as a frequent author of original research on the New York City housing market. She was also named one of Crain's New York's 40 Under 40 earlier this year. Nancy is an expert on a variety of topics, including affordability, renting versus buying, and the pandemic's ongoing impact on housing prices. Nancy, welcome and take it away.
All right, thank you, Stephanie, and thank you everyone for being here. Nancy Wu, I'm the economist here at StreetEasy, where I live in this data day in and day out. We release new data every month on the sales and rentals market, and so we're always looking at different ways that this data can be important to you. And as you know firsthand, it's been a really busy quarter for both the sales and the rentals market in New York City. So my goal here today is to help you walk out with a numbers perspective. So we'll start with the sales market and turn over to the rentals market. So let's look at our freshly released Q3 data that covers July through September. We're looking right now at the StreetEasy price index over time. And so many of you know from past Decoding the Markets that StreetEasy has our own way of tracing prices on the market. We control for neighborhood, the number of bedrooms, and the composition of homes on the market in order to look at price changes in a way that is more accurate than just the median. So the top half chart is where prices currently are at. We see, and then the bottom half is where prices are changing, the rate that they're changing year over year. So Manhattan prices reached just over 1 million. Brooklyn's hovering around 700K, and Queens is in the 500K range. And for the purposes of this presentation, we are going to focus on Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens, where our data is the most robust. So I'll walk you through trends there. Bronx and Staten Island, we are seeing slightly different trends because they weren't impacted the same way from the pandemic. So looking at year over year changes now, the bottom chart, we see that prices started to trend upward significantly in the past few months. Nationally, I'm sure you've seen the headlines about prices soaring across the country and inventory shortages, but it's very different in New York City. And we're seeing very moderate price growth year after years of no growth. And I don't anticipate prices in New York City jumping 10% year over year for the foreseeable future, the way that we are seeing in other metros across the country. So what is happening in New York City? Manhattan prices have been falling year over year by 5% for the past 3 years, and they finally started to increase this summer and this spring. Brooklyn prices were falling around 2% year over year, but they are recovering now as well. And Queens prices are remaining fairly stable compared to Manhattan and Brooklyn. So some of this price growth, what's driving it, a lot of it has to do with the luxury market, which is the 4 million plus range, the top 10% of the market. There's a lot more demand for luxury inventory, which was something that we had a surplus of for the past several years, especially in Manhattan. But lately, there's been a lot of demand from investors, foreign demand, people who gained economically in the past year, as many of you may know from working with these folks. But a lot of interested buyers over the entire market of prices have come onto the market, and that means more demand and higher prices. But there's still a surplus of inventory on the market that's preventing prices from going up even faster. So it's this constant back and forth between supply and demand, and we'll get into the details of all of this. So let's look at demand. Pending sales are a very good indicator of the way that the sales market is trending. And this shows us that buyer activity is increasing rapidly in Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens. And I'm sure this is super obvious to those of you on the ground. We're looking back at the last full quarter, and we saw that there was a spike in pending sales in Q2 this spring, and that started to fall just a bit this past quarter in the summer. And there's still a lot of interested buyers on the market with low mortgage rates, tons of options, but summer is typically a cooler season for buying than spring and fall, so some of this drop might be due to seasonality. Now let's turn to supply, which we can look at through inventory. Buyers are making moves, but there's not enough to make a significant dent in the inventory. So we see that inventory in New York City peaked in the winter and remains very elevated throughout this year. And inventory is what makes New York City different from what's happening nationally. High inventory and high supply prevents prices from rising as rapidly, even when there is a lot of demand on the market. So if you have a buyer who is interested in a home, you can show them plenty of options of similar homes on the market right now because there's so much inventory. So in case one home falls through or has too many interested clients, there's still a lot of others to choose from. We also trace the median days that a home spends on the market between the date it was listed and the date that it goes into contract. So homes are spending roughly the same amount of time on the market as they have been before. Brooklyn homes are coming off the market a little bit quicker than Manhattan and Queens in the past quarter to quarter, but days on market overall seems to have more to do with seasonality than anything else. In fact, whereas homes are coming off the market in just under a week nationally, we're seeing that homes in New York City are still staying for roughly 2 or 3 months on the market, which is not as long as they were spending during the height of the pandemic, but it's still a good amount of time. So there's a lot of time that homes tend to stay on the market, and that's a good expectation to help tell sellers to keep in mind. The last thing we trace are price cuts, and this is when a listing on StreetEasy receives a price drop that's advertised. So 1 in 5 homes were discounted in 2021, which is a good amount, but it wasn't as high as we've seen in years past. So you see here that fewer sellers are cutting prices on their homes quarter after quarter, and that's because of the heightened demand and also because sellers are already listing at a higher price. So sellers seem to be very confident in their asking prices because they know that there's a lot of interested buyers on the market. And so the shares of discounts are lower than we typically see in a home shopping season. So there are still discounts, but not as much as before. So even though only 1 in 5 homes received a discount while listed, more than half of the homes on StreetEasy close below ask for as much as 6% lower than the asking price that we've seen in Tribeca and some other neighborhoods. So Zillow did some research on how the typical homes sold above ask during bidding wars across most major metros. But New York City is very different in that there's not a single neighborhood where on average homes close above ask. So there will be negotiations on average, and you can help your clients prepare for that. And as an agent, it's good to know what to expect. It's very different from what we're seeing in the national areas. So we put together a seller index, which is the best neighborhoods where sellers have the upper hand. And we created this ranking based on a few factors: the highest sale to list price ratio, the shortest median days on market, and the biggest increases in messages to that listing year over year. And so we've seen that this is a list of neighborhoods where sellers have the upper hand. Brooklyn is heavily represented. In many of these neighborhoods, homes are closing on average near asking price. And agents, I would really love to hear what you're seeing on the ground in these neighborhoods as well, if they're really, really busy. So the takeaway from the sales market is this: after a years-long slowdown, the current sales market rebound means a busier fall season and heightened demand across the city. So we're going to expect a very busy season throughout the rest of the year. A hangover of inventory from the pandemic is keeping prices from rising as much as it is in the rest of the country for now. So your clients can still snag a good deal, but we are going to see prices rise as long as sellers are pricing properly and demand remains high, though mortgage rate increases may impact demand in the near future. So now let's turn to the renters market. So the pandemic has had a very different impact on the rentals versus the sales market, as we know. Rentals are much quicker to react to economic downturns than sales. And the sales market slowdown and recovery was more gradual and less related to the pandemic. It was more related to inventory, mortgage rate changes, demand for homes. But the rentals market was very dramatically impacted by the pandemic. So that price index we talked about earlier, we also have one for the rentals market called the rent index. It traces rents changes year over year in a similar way where we can control for neighborhood, for variation. So during the pandemic, we saw that rents dropped by over 13% across the city, over 16% in Manhattan, and over 10% in Brooklyn and Queens. So that's more than what rents even dropped for during the Great Recession. And the recovery was much faster as well. We're seeing that rents have already recovered to near pre-pandemic levels in Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens. And a lot of this has to do with the unique period of demand that we're in right now. So a lot of new renters are coming onto the market, and we're seeing that rental inventory has dipped significantly from the beginning of the year to now. And this is because we're seeing the compounding effects of renters moving back to the city, as well as a high number of renters coming onto the market in the city. And these are renters who have gotten great concessions last year, and they're facing these high gross rents now. And so they're looking at rentals and moving more. We're seeing more turnover in addition to relative to past years. And it's also the season where we typically see the busiest home shopping, or where we typically see the busiest renter season. But we are expecting that this year, this peak seasonality in the rentals market is going to extend into the fall as we see more inventory come down on the market. So as we know, concessions peaked last year and are now dropping to pre-pandemic levels. or below pre-pandemic levels even. So be prepared to tell prospective renters to face tougher negotiations if they are looking to move within the next month or so. I anticipate that landlords might be more willing to cut a deal in the fall or winter months since they're trying to make up for lost time and money right now, but we'll have to see because demand will continue throughout the year as more New Yorkers move back to the city for job reopenings in the beginning of 2022 and as more leases expire throughout the rest of the year. So we are going to see some pretty heavy demand. So the takeaways from the rentals market: the compounding effect of renters moving back to the city and the sustained demand is causing peak rental season to extend further into the year than normal. And more renters are entering the market, including those who received pandemic-related concessions and can't afford or don't want to renew. So this fall presents an opportunity to help even more people find apartments. Rental price growth will continue as leases expire throughout the year and more people move back to New York City. So we are seeing a very quick recovery right now. So lastly, if you're curious about more neighborhoods and trends, you can use our data dashboard to customize data, zoom in on any particular neighborhood, and stay informed. We have all of the data points that we talked about on here, as well as the ability to filter by bedroom size, by co-op versus condo. And you can download charts and trends to show clients info about where they're getting a good deal, how their apartment compares to other similar properties in the neighborhood, and much more. And be sure to visit our blog to find all of our research about the seller's index, about the neighborhoods with the sale to list price ratios. All of the research that we have, including our market report, is on our blog. Also, feel free to follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn to stay connected. I'm also on StreetEasy's TikTok sharing tips. And so thank you so much for tuning in. I'll turn it back to Stephanie and Caroline for the fireside chat.
Thank you, Nancy. I always appreciate your perspective and frankly, your ability to boil down really complex economic insights into palatable formats. I know that it speaks to how I can absorb information. I'm sure that our agent audience appreciates it as well. So now, without further ado, I would like to introduce StreetEasy's Vice President and General Manager, Caroline Burton. For everyone watching today, you're getting the awesome and frankly coveted opportunity to hear directly from Caroline about StreetEasy's 2022 focus and our efforts to connect consumers with the agents we work with. So welcome to the digital Decoding the Market, Caroline.
Thanks, Stephanie, and great to be here. I'm excited to have the opportunity to at least virtually get in front of everyone here and talk about New York City real estate and what we're thinking about here at StreetEasy. I'm coming to you today, like Stephanie, from my home in Westchester, where I spent a lot of the last 1.5 years. But we have started to return to office here at StreetEasy, and I'm definitely seeing the trains and the streets fill up, and it's so great to be back to the buzz of New York City. I imagine I haven't had the pleasure of meeting many of you, so for those that don't know me, again, I'm Caroline Burton. I've been with StreetEasy for the past 7 years. In a variety of roles, and over that time I've seen a lot change, but I'm always excited about how we continue to grow and engage and support the New York shopping audience and really help our buyers, our sellers, our renters get into a home they love, and to do that in the most exciting real estate market in the US is the cherry on top. So great to be here.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. Appreciate the info. And for everybody who's watching, Caroline and I don't live together. We just both have in Westchester County. So just want to make sure we clarify that for all of the folks on the line. So Caroline, listen, I couldn't agree more. I absolutely love and thrive on the vibrancy of New York City, the culture, the people that really kind of make up this awesome microcosm that we get to work and live in. And there's really no other market like it. There's really no other city like it. Maybe you could share for the audience just a little bit about what your focus has been as the Vice President and General Manager of StreetEasy. You've been in this role for about 1.5 years now. So just alongside the pandemic, you came into this role. So perhaps you could just share with us a little bit of your future vision.
Yeah, so I think in this role and as a company, there's probably three core things that I'm always thinking about. The first is inspiring innovation and creativity and productivity with everyone that's working in the organization. We had to adapt and challenge our previous working norms here in this remote working environment. And I'm constantly testing and tweaking new ways that we collaborate and communicate to ensure that the teams are truly set up for success, know what everyone's doing, getting all the valuable insights from our research, our community, and really make sure that everyone's jiving and working towards our singular mission. So that's obviously core to everything that I'm thinking about day in and day out. The second is delivering on or exceeding on our customers' expectations. So I'm always talking about improving the customer experience. What does that mean? It means that they are getting what they need both on and off site. We have millions of buyers and renters coming to StreetEasy every month, and they're thinking about their next move. And they might be ready and in need and in panic mode, or they might be just thinking about, whether it's the right time. And we want to be there to help them wherever they are and make sure they feel that they're in control, that they have an advisor on their side, that they have access to content and data, or that they're in there and seeing the listings and we're helping to open up their mind to new areas or, new homes that they could get in. And of course, what we want with all of you listening here is that we're making that connection at the right time with someone that can really help them and supports them, and that they're having a great experience there. This is a relationship business. Did we find the right person that, they can match with? Did they, are they always getting a response? Can they tour a home when they need to? Like, those things are all important, and they're the things that, I'm just thinking about how we can continue to do better and better all the time. And then with that, we obviously need our strong industry partnerships to support what I call our collective outcomes. We all want to get these customers into their next home. So we think we're best when we're working together and we can streamline the end-to-end real estate process with technology and allow all of you, our partners, to spend that time advising, negotiating, right, supporting these customers. So we've made great strides in the last 18 months with our experts program, which hopefully we'll talk a little bit more about today. And we've really been able to optimize on both sides, who our buyers connect with. Are we connecting them with the right partners? Are they working in the areas where they can do best in the city and where they know the most? And we've just recently, I think, started to hear really great success stories on both sides, the customers and our agents, and how we're helping agents scale their business and customers, really have great experiences. So that's generally, that's as easy as it is of what I'm thinking about all the time, but obviously a lot goes into all of that.
Thank you for that. I wonder if you ever sleep, because that's quite a bit that you have on your plate, but I know that we've got a very deep bench of folks at StreetEasy that are helping to support that vision and helping to execute on it. So I wanted to, if we could, just for a minute, before we dive into the next year, right, 2022 is what I'm speaking about, and the future at StreetEasy. We've all been through the ringer, so to speak, in the last 18 months. There's an incredible amount of change that the city has undergone in the last year and a half. And certainly the real estate industry has been kind of at the forefront of that change and really kind of having to adapt to new, as you mentioned, new working norms, or as it was in 2022, not being able to function in traditional ways at all, right? When real estate was not able to operate normally for about a whole quarter. So, Caroline, maybe you could spend just a minute discussing what StreetEasy learned from the last year and a half. I think that would be, really key for the folks on the line to hear, because that's foundational for how we're going to move forward and work with our partners differently in the years to come.
Yeah. So the last 18 months, they really catalyzed how much the real estate industry needed to evolve. And in many cases, it sped up innovation that may not have happened for years. And so I think a lot of that was the proliferation of 3D home tours. We've seen Zoom co-op board interviews, online notarization. So these are things, again, they would have taken years, and now they are standard and part of what's expected. So I think as an industry, we all had to adjust together and learn how to navigate the city and a real estate landscape that was rapidly changing. And so I'm super impressed with the incredible amount of resilience that agents and others across the entire industry exhibited to really help customers navigate these choppy waters and continue to help them get into their homes. So what we learned about agents, our industry, and consumers throughout the pandemic has informed our vision for the future here. So it's created new clarity around what consumers want and need, and really helped us hone in on the most important pieces of the current home finding and moving process. And so for me, the key here is we can't go backwards, right? New expectations have been set, and now customers are only demanding more. Like we're used to this environment, so we have to do what we all did and then continue to evolve and do it better. But I think it's this, what was new is now baseline, and higher expectations are coming.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I mean, I can tell you personally, the last year and a half has really kind of turned my life upside down, having to juggle work and homeschooling like so many of you on the line, next level tantrums from very, very small humans, and sometimes larger ones. My husband doesn't necessarily get excluded from that, but that all kind of coupled with isolation and just different working environment, we made it through. And what I can tell you is that the silver lining for me personally is that I got to spend a lot more time with my family when I normally would not have been able to, and saw my children, grow and thrive in a really odd situation. And I got a front row seat to seeing the agents that we work with do their best work in the most extreme working environment, at least in my career. And I watched the StreetEasy team create and collaborate with our external partners to come up with innovating ways of doing business, and making sure that the consumer's needs are being met 24/7, even under these extreme circumstances. So all that's to say is that we made it through. We're still in the pandemic, but I think that we've all adjusted at this point, and we're moving forward. So I can appreciate what everybody's going through. Okay, now on to StreetEasy's vision. We are in the throes of our 2022 planning here at StreetEasy. After adjusting to the last year and a half, we're able to take a step back and look at our future strategy and our plans. Caroline, what is exciting for you in the year ahead? What do you think about StreetEasy and New York City real estate more broadly, and how we can move the industry forward, working with agents as well?
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for the market to return to some semblance of normal, and I think we're seeing signs of that. So the last 1.5 years, they were a little bumpy, and we saw highs and lows. We wondered not if, but when renters and buyers would return. And as Nancy shared in her State of the Market overview, we're now seeing things get a little more predictable. And so our singular mission here is to simplify and modernize the New York City real estate process. So we want to reduce friction in the moving experience and meet the needs of today's home shoppers and all of you, the New York City real estate professionals who serve them. And so we often hear that the process of buying, renting, and selling, it's stressful, it's filled with pressure, the unknowns that pop up. And so we want to arm our customers with the data and tools and connections to our partners that really set them up for success. And again, I keep talking about it, but we want them to feel in control. That's what we know that they crave. And inevitably give them a leg up to get them into the next home that they love. So as I said, when we deliver great outcomes for our shared customers, the home shoppers, it means success for the agents that work with us. So I'm super excited to really get further along in those partnerships and really be working together to best serve all of our collective customers. So in 2022, what are we really focused on to move this forward? A lot of what we're doing is focused on personalization. We want to create more streamlined and tailored customer experiences for renters, for buyers, and actually for the first time, we're placing a lot more emphasis on potential sellers. So we made a lot of headway in 2021 producing content for owners that are thinking about selling, and we now have this network of experts to match them with. So we'll be doing a lot more there, which is really exciting, I think, to be able to make those connections. We've continued to build the largest and most engaged home shopping audience in New York City. That's always core to what we do, and we will continue to do that. But again, that means we've got the buyers and renters looking at all of your clients' listings. In a recent study we conducted, we found that 84% of New York City renters and 85% of New York City buyers are using a Zillow Group brand in their home search. So, they are here, and we need to serve them well, again, in partnership. So to give some perspective of just how engaged our customer base is today, and Nancy alluded to some of this in the rental trends earlier, we're now seeing 85% more contacts, so that's the leads on listings, on rental listings in September of this year compared to September of 2019. So we're producing a lot of demand for each listing, but volume is not what we're after. That sometimes isn't a great thing. If we're sending 40 leads in the first few days to a rental listing, that's a lot of work for an agent to respond to them all. It probably means a renter is not getting a response, or they're number 32 in line to tour an apartment that they had their heart set on. So like, they are not great experiences. And there's probably a lot of people that are showing up that aren't qualified, or they didn't realize, it faced one direction and they wanted another direction. And so how do we really streamline that? So instead of having 40 leads, you could have 10 great leads and 3 great tours, and everyone's expectations are aligned. That's really what next year is about. So we're focused on listing and building content and adding new capabilities around the search and evaluation process that will enable better listing matches, better agent matches for our buyer and seller programs, and inevitably what leads to more successful transactions for all our partners.
So it sounds like quality sometimes over quantity is the name of the game. Sometimes quality and quantity, but that sounds like the personalization aspect is something that I know partners are really excited about, customers are excited about, because it just gives an overall better experience for everybody, and that's ultimately what we're aiming for. Yep. So at the top of the hour, I mentioned a few product enhancements that StreetEasy is going to be launching in the coming months. I mentioned enhancements to our open house registration, StreetEasy flexible search, a new homepage coming to StreetEasy. These are focused on personalization, which Caroline just mentioned as well. Can you share some examples of what this focus on personalization will really look like in action next year? So let's paint a picture for the agents on the line, so they get a really good sense of what this actually means rather than just hearing about it from us.
Yeah. So as always, we turn to data and customer research when we're innovating on our experiences. But as you mentioned a few of the things that we are focused on for next year. So I'll touch on some of those and try to bring them to life for you. So you mentioned flexible search. So why is this great? Yes, it's great because you can now go in and search must-haves, nice-to-haves, and really see what's on the market that could fulfill your needs. But what is really important there is, sometimes customers come in and they are thinking, they think they know the unit and the neighborhood and they are done and that's it. And when they don't find what they want, especially in this market with high demand, they can get frustrated. The idea that we can open up their eyes and help them see new things, like that feels really critical in this market. And so the more we can see how they engage and then present more listings like those ones, it should really help, propel customers forward. And again, opening up their eyes to new areas is always important. We're building out our activity hub on StreetEasy. So this is the place that our buyers and our renters can stay organized and see all the listings that they've, saved, what they've toured. They can make notes. They can go back and contact for more information. So, really helping them see where they've been, what they liked, and where they're going. Again, this is all giving us more data where we can then get better at what we're serving up and how we're moving our buyers and renters forward in the process. You mentioned our homepage, but what goes hand in hand with our homepage is our onboarding process, where when customers or users are coming to the site, we're asking them questions. We're constantly filling out their profile, and that is valuable information that, again, helps us make better connections to agents. It helps us serve up better, just a better experience for the customer. When they come back, that homepage for them is going to be filled with the things that are most important to them. This idea that you have your own homepage now on StreetEasy is something that will be super unique and we'll continue to optimize. And then we're always focusing on smarter and more efficient matching between agents and buyers and now sellers, as I mentioned, who are ready to move. So I mentioned the last few years, our StreetEasy Experts program has seen tremendous growth. We now have dozens of brokerages participating. We've driven billions of dollars of home sales. And with so much success on the buy side of the business, again, this focus on the sell side is really exciting. And so we're building tools to solve more seller pain points, help them understand when the time is right, get them ready for, what putting their home on the market might be and how they find the right agent for them. I've said this is a relationship business. There is not just one listing agent that is the perfect match for that seller, but letting them know who's here, who can be great, and how to help them find that match. That's, I think, a super exciting place for us to play. So sending more opportunities to listing agents in that program is definitely how this will show up, at least on the expert side of the program.
Great. So I'm going to just say, calling all listing agents, pay attention to the experts program. Get in there, get involved, not just for buyers agents. We want to connect to you as well. So, but really exciting overall, Caroline. I mean, I'm always impressed with what our team is thinking about, and again, how we are executing extremely fast, very complicated processes, but we like to test, we like to pilot, we like to put things out into the ether and make sure they're a right fit for our consumer audience and the agents that we work with. If you could, putting all this in perspective for the agents on the line, we've touched on the consumer enhancements, the personalization that we're building in for consumers to make it a more joyful process to buy, sell, and rent homes in New York. But what does that mean for the agents that we've got that we work with? Let's get down to brass tacks. How does that translate? How do these updates translate into more business for the agents that StreetEasy works with?
Yeah, so it really means, we're helping buyers, renters, and sellers assess and evaluate their needs more upfront. And that should mean more qualified leads for the agents that we work with. We want our agents spending time, really building their client base, spending time with clients, helping them, get into their homes, negotiate the deals, deal with, all the unknowns that pop up. We don't want them dealing with, funneling through leads and touring people that are not qualified. So I think by working together to provide more information up front and allow our customers to really vet listings, know when it's the right time to connect, that will make for a better experience for everyone. This is that streamlining with tech, letting customers be in control, and letting our partner agents really focus on their clients and having those clients get into their homes.
Great. I think there is a key takeaway here. So agents, listen up here, because what we're trying to do is really to cut out, it sounds to me like we're trying to cut out the minutia from an agent's day to day. We know there's quite a few administrative tasks that you have to keep in your process every day to keep your clients up to date and make sure you've got everything streamlined in your book. But we're looking to make that whole experience, not just for consumers, but for agents as well, more streamlined, which Caroline just mentioned, and more efficient, which is a word you're going to hear us mention quite a bit on today's Decoding the Market. More instant gratification for the consumers and for the agents, more real-time feedback for everybody involved, are going to be part of the package to get consumers into their next home faster and frankly with smiles all around. We want to cut out the frustration that's embedded in the real estate process. Are we building any products or thinking more specifically about the StreetEasy experience for the agents we work with? Can you shed some light on that and what's to come?
Yeah, so we're constantly improving the tools that allow agents to market their listings, again, to the largest audience of New York City home shoppers, and those that help build great connections that, again, lead to these successful moves. We don't necessarily think about agent tools or agent products as a separate focus area, but instead the agent experience is embedded within our goal of making the customer shopping journey more enjoyable by building tools and features that can be leveraged by agents to better support the home shopper's journey. So we'll continue to optimize the entire process for agents. That's entering the listings, that's reporting on listing performance, the search experience, notifications so that they know what's going on in the market. And again, this connecting to the right customer, we continue to build tools within our experts program for lead management and really setting them up for success. And I'd also look for some improvements and opportunities in the touring space. Like that's something that we are focused on improving next year. But again, we don't specifically think about a suite of tools just for agents. It's all in service of this, connected, enjoyable customer experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to hear that we're not kind of dividing up the segments. They they flow from one to the other. There's a lot of shared experiences across the spectrum for the folks that we work with. You talked a bit about our shared customer with the brokerage community and the tools and experience our team is working to build for them specifically. Can you talk to me about what that customer, and I mean today's renters, buyers, sellers, what are they looking for, and how has that changed as a result of the pandemic? What's the findings that our team has given to you to help, again, inform our decision making?
Yeah, so some of the things we've learned about buyers and sellers heading into 2022 are that they want the real estate experience to work like everything else in their lives, right? They want it to be simple, they want to be in control, and our customers, they want it on demand. That's the world we live in now. So while the pandemic sped up the rollout of various tech tools in real estate, particularly virtual shopping tools like 3D tours and videos, as I've said, we've seen this sustained demand. We've always known that New Yorkers wanted an accurate picture of the unit that they are going to tour. And these expectations are now heightened, where virtual showing features are becoming, as I said, baseline. And they're prioritizing their search to view units with these features. It might be interesting to note that listings on StreetEasy that include rich media like floor plans, 3D tours, videos, etc., they're seeing 4 times the engagement, and engagement there is the views and contacts from consumers than listings without any rich media. So that shows it pays to get your listing in front of those eyes. They are the people that are really in market, and they, if they can't tell that unit is for them, they will move on. They're also now looking for more convenience, like instant tour booking and access to even more information up front so that they can do more to prioritize their search at home. So in 2022, when agents are entering their listings, they'll likely start to see us prompt them for different data points and information that home shoppers have said they want to know up front. For example, we know that renters want to see answers to common building and unit policy and fee questions directly on the listings, or an accurate and detailed floor plan and upcoming availability in case the timing isn't right, but they're actually interested in this building. So they want to understand the different floor plans to see what else might be right for them. So again, it's making it easier to deliver the details that we know our customers want up front, and helping ensure that the agents who are working with us are receiving leads who are a true fit for the unit. This is back to that streamlining. And finally, the move to remote work or flexible work is definitely having an impact on home shopper preferences and priorities. So the ability to work and live anywhere is already opening up housing opportunities all over the country. It's widely benefiting first-time home buyers and renters of color. But here in the city, we're seeing New Yorkers who no longer have to be at their workplace 5 days a week, and they're prioritizing more amenities, greater affordability and space over shorter commutes. So our search data is supporting this notion. We're seeing more searches specifying amenities overall, and search demand is up in the outer boroughs. So areas of Queens and Brooklyn in particular have seen new demand from home shoppers.
Great, and I think it's a really interesting point to kind of end on, which is again around the research that StreetEasy does, which is never ending. We are constantly looking at the marketplace and thinking about and researching, how are working conditions impacting home searching and buying and renting. And this is not something that ends today. It is evolving, and we will keep pace with it, and we'll make sure that we are producing reports from Nancy and folks on her team so that our agent and brokerage partners are informed of what's going on. I wanted to follow up, if I could, on these insights that you just mentioned. And frankly, how can agents tap into the behavioral changes that you mentioned? How can, what can they do to ensure that they're seeing not only the most connections working on StreetEasy, but the best connections to grow their business with us?
Yeah, so I'd say there's a handful of things I'd recommend. Number one, learn more about our StreetEasy Experts program and see if it's a right fit for you, if your brokerage is participating, if you have the right experience. We know that New Yorkers are looking for agents who can provide specific knowledge about their search, from the neighborhood to a particular building. And we're continuing to work to connect them to top agents in our experts network who offer that hyper-local expertise. What I've always said is that it's not it's not the agents with the most experience, it's with the specific experience. And then being able to build up your experience and build more business with us, like that is where we're seeing true success with this program. And, we will continue to double down there. I think an agent in our program actually closed the largest transaction last month in New York City from a lead in the program, which was a $36 million all cash deal. So pretty amazing. And obviously, looking for more of those. But that's a great place if you really are just trying to build your business with us. Great program. Second, make sure your listings include all of that rich media we've been talking about. High quality floor plans, photos, 3D tours, video tours. Like we have the technology available to you for free where you can build 3D tours and virtual tour videos. And it just makes a difference. As I've said, we've seen the engagement that comes from these listings, and it is so important. And I know sometimes it feels advantageous to, make the listing look like it's something better than it is. But all that does is result in kind of failed expectations. So be trustworthy, put all of these, elements on the listing. That will definitely drive the most qualified leads for your listing. And then remember, you're in a relationship business. The number one thing that any of our customers want when they reach out is a timely and informed response. So make sure you're doing that. If you don't, they're moving on to the next listing, the next person.
I just want to make sure everybody realizes who's part of the experts program. Carolyn just touched on that record-breaking $36 million all-cash deal that came in through the experts network. It came in on a rental lead. So somebody was on StreetEasy looking at a listing, and they were inquiring with one of the experts to rent a property, and it transitioned into a sale for $36 million. So pay attention to all the types of leads you get and make sure you're giving them all kind of equal access to your time and responsiveness. The second thing I wanted to remark on there is the feedback we get from customers. So folks on the line, we talk to our shared customer, the buyer, the renter, the seller, all the time at StreetEasy. We run focus groups, we connect to them through our customer support channel, and time and again, consumers or customers are telling us that they want to see actual unit imagery, photos, and floor plans for rentals and for sales. And they want it to be true when they go and they tour the property. They tend to be more engaged on listings that have the actual content. So make sure that every time you create a listing on StreetEasy that you have the real marketing content there. It'll make for a better experience for the consumer overall.
Yeah, I'd say, we know this market moves fast, and we want to help agents anticipate client needs and track their marketing efforts easily on StreetEasy. So other things are, keep up with the market data. The data dashboard that Nancy mentioned earlier is a great resource. You can take advantage of all of our reporting tools, custom comps for your listings. Your agent dashboard has a bunch of information there that can help you understand how your listings are doing. If you want to take advantage of some advertising products on the site to boost visibility. There's really, a lot of things that you can access there. And so if you have questions about how to optimize your listings, how to leverage that dashboard, we are here to help. We've got a great support team that is here dedicated to you, and you can access them, ask questions, get support, get advice. So I also encourage all of you to do that.
Great. I'm going to take a turn for a second here to focus on a different topic that we haven't touched on just yet, but I know is near and dear to StreetEasy's heart, and that is housing equity and driving fair housing opportunities for all New Yorkers. So Carolyn, can you talk to me and talk to the audience a little bit about StreetEasy's mission, what I like to call housing for all, and what we're doing in this space to kind of educate, bring awareness, and bring equity in housing?
Yeah, so I'm glad we have some time today to talk about our fair housing efforts. This is some of the most important work that we're doing as a company. Fair housing initiatives present us with the ability to truly change the trajectory of people's lives. So again, important stuff. So as you said, at StreetEasy, we firmly believe everyone deserves a safe, affordable home free of discrimination, and we'll continue to put our research, our product, and our people towards this goal. And we only work with partners whose behaviors align with this core value. So we continue to make changes to our product to help push this mission. One example is a housing voucher tool that we launched earlier this year. So StreetEasy data shows that lower rents and high inventory levels caused by the pandemic have nearly doubled the number of homes on the market in New York City that are affordable for Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher participants in 2021 compared to 2019. So this is welcome news. It opens up a lot of new inventory across the city for voucher holders, but the core challenge still remains. So in a recent StreetEasy survey, 26% of respondents indicated knowing their rights as a tenant was one of their biggest pain points in the rental process. And so a new StreetEasy feature we introduced this summer aimed to change that for renters and for those renters searching with vouchers. So the new data-powered resource, it's found directly on eligible StreetEasy listings. It arms renters with the information about local laws that protect them from income discrimination, and it offers tips on finding and renting apartments that fit their criteria. So we're committed to making more product updates to help inform home shoppers, but also agents on local laws and New York's housing rights and protections. We also continue to build up our fair housing related content library on the StreetEasy blog, which you all have access to and can direct your clients to. And you can also find links to past events that cover the issues of affordability and equity in New York City housing. So that includes a recent conversation with the commissioner at the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development. But all of this to me is, we're scratching the surface here. It's education, it's content, it's protections, and we definitely want to do more. So we want to build product that supports agents and renters in this mission. So this work is long-term, it takes a village, it will continue to be a focus for StreetEasy, and we hope the entire New York City real estate community. And as always, we are all ears on how we can work together to really improve housing affordability in New York City.
Awesome. And I'm just going to repeat that last line that Caroline just said. We are all ears for feedback from the agents and partners that we work with. So we want to make sure that we're hearing from you and how you're, again, helping to bring equity into the real estate sphere in New York City. It is a huge goal of ours, a huge aim of ours. So Caroline, thank you so much for all that feedback. It was a lot, but what insight you've given to the agents on the line. Thank you for the vision that you've shared with us for StreetEasy in 2022 and beyond. And at this point, I'm going to welcome Nancy back onto the screen so we can get into the Q&A portion of Decoding the Market. Hi, Nancy. Welcome back. All right, this first question is for Nancy. I'm just going to dive right in. What is the most important thing to tell sellers and buyers right now about the market?
So a few tips here. I would say it's important to really spend some time on the market to get smart with the numbers and understand what the current trends are. Neighborhoods, blocks, buildings, everything in New York City is very unique and has its own quirks and history. So that is like just doing your research, using the data dashboard in order to look at what is out there and how things compare to each other. And then the second tip is to don't try to time the market. Timing the market is nearly impossible. Even as an economist, I try to do it, but it's pretty unpredictable. So it rarely works out, but make sure to choose the right trade-offs when you're thinking about buying now versus in the future. And make sure to choose the right partner to help you navigate the market in the process.
Okay, great tips from Nancy there. This next question is for Caroline, and I can speak from my own experiences that I get this question quite often from agents and leadership all over New York City real estate. Is Premier Agent no longer on StreetEasy?
Yeah, so we have the Premier Agent product and we have our Experts product. And yes, Premier Agent is actually still on StreetEasy. It's on a small percentage of our inventory, but in cases where that is the best match, an agent that's in the Premier Agent program is the best match for a customer on our site, we still connect there. And of course, Premier Agent is still on Zillow and Trulia in New York. But as agents on the line probably know better than anyone, New York City is an incredibly unique market and it requires specialized tools and offerings to fit. So on the StreetEasy platform, that was also true, which is why we built the StreetEasy Experts program, so to better fit with the unique needs of home shoppers and the agents in New York City. And so we know how critical hyperlocal knowledge and previous experiences in a neighborhood, in a building, in a home type, home shoppers in New York. And that's why our Experts program is anchored around the agent's experience. So that allows us to connect buyers and sellers with our agent partners who are a great match for them, again, based on the experience they have in those segments. So we continue to refine our segments. That's what makes the Experts program unique from Premier Agent, and we tweak our lead routing algorithm. And we provide coaching and visibility to our expert partner agents, what drives optimal performance in this market. So both programs exist, and we will continue. You know, it's not really about Premier Agent versus Experts. It's really about matching the best agents with our customers, and we will continue to optimize and improve the products over time.
Next question is for you, Nancy. What is your overall view of the 2022 economy?
A tough question, but I am seeing, as the data shows, a strong recovery and rebound in New York City on both the sales and the rentals market, as well as the economy overall. So the local job market and the economy are strengthening every day, as is the real estate market and demand for housing in the city. So particularly rentals is very hot right now. Housing prices have not yet fully recovered to pre-pandemic levels, but New York City will always be a place that people want to live in. So we're not surprised to see demand and interest steadily return month after month this year, taming all the fears of an urban exodus. So people are moving back to the city. And I also expect that mortgage rates will start going up steadily in the next year, and that could impact buyer demand for homes, especially in the mid to lower range price of homes. But that's something that we'll have to wait and see. And meanwhile, inventory is still going down as more and more people are renting and buying. So now could be a really good time to consider buying for a lot of clients, especially if they are concerned about mortgage rates and the fact that there's a lot of choices still in the market right now. So it's hard to time the market, but I do think that it's a trade-off between buy now versus waiting next year.
Thank you, Nancy. Really, really appreciate that. That was a heavy question to dig into. And this next question is for Caroline. It's a great one to end on. What do you see as the future of real estate?
Future of real estate. I think we've talked about it here when we kicked this off. Like, it is a seamless, tech-enabled real estate experience for home shoppers that's facilitated by top agents who are as obsessed with the customer experience as we are. So tech will continue to improve the real estate experience, but it will never replace, the human connection. And the magic happens when we combine technology with that human touch. So here at StreetEasy, I think we'll continue to build the tools that help facilitate connections to the best agents in the city and to help home shoppers navigate what is for many of them the biggest transaction of their lives. So there is a ton of work to do here, and that's just streamlining the connection piece. There's obviously all the services that wrap around the transaction, but I'm excited to do this alongside the best agents in the business and really, working together to make this the enjoyable experience that we all know it can be.
Wonderful. So thank you both, Nancy and Caroline, for great answers to some complicated questions. Thank you to our agents on the line who submitted those questions so that we could get to them. This concludes this quarter's Decoding the Market session. I want to thank Nancy and Caroline for their insights and their honesty on the line with all of you. I'm sure you all found it a useful amount of your time, and please give us that feedback. I want to reiterate StreetEasy's mission of providing a seamless experience in real estate for New York City buyers, renters, and sellers. So our aim is to always create that frictionless and joyful process. We want to make sure that we connect the best agents in the business with these high intent consumers and get everybody kind of over that threshold as quickly as possible into their next homes. All of this effort is grounded in technology, it's grounded in data integrity, and it's grounded in working with agents in New York City. We're looking to hear from you always. We want to make sure we're producing best-in-class programming and products and services for all of you. So after this concludes, please make sure to fill out that survey you see on your screen. We want to hear from you. You will get a gift from StreetEasy, or you'll get to make a donation of your choice. And again, give us that feedback on the content, on the products, on the market analysis. It's really critical for us to hear from all of you. That's all we've got for today, folks. Again, thank you to Caroline Burton and Nancy Wu for joining us, and we'll see you all next time on Air with StreetEasy.